Bernard Hopkins Tavoris Cloud fight was at the Barclays Center. It was for history. Again, Hopkins wanted to extend his own record of becoming the oldest champion at 48. I know I should have posted this video earlier, but I wanted to watch the fight on TV because I was in attendance at the Barclays Center to watch it. The crowd was electric for him. It was definitely a pro Hopkins crowd. Everybody there was chanting B Hop, B Hop, B Hop. And people wanted to see him extend his own record. And again, dispatching another young and in his prime lion of Tavoris Cloud. So like I said, I was there. I was about like 50 feet from the ring. So I had excellent seats. I was able to see everything, all the oohs and ahs. Every time a punch was thrown, every time a good shot was landed, sweat, flying from a fighter. So I was there. Now, what actually happened with the fight, how I viewed it when I was there, because there was no commentating, Hopkins pretty much did what he wanted to do. I'd probably give Tavoris Cloud maybe 3 rounds, 2, 5, and 8, and that was it. Maybe you could throw in another, but Hopkins took everything away from him. He set the pace early. He fought his fight, and Tavoris Cloud ended up fighting Bernard Hopkins' fight. For him to be the younger, in his prime fighter, he should have pressed more, and he didn't. He didn't make Hopkins work. Hopkins controlled the pace. He took everything away from Cloud. Cloud has a good jab, but really couldn't land it. Tavoris Cloud ended up throwing over 200 more punches, but really didn't land much. Hopkins did what he needed to do, kept him in the middle of the ring. He outboxed him. He was on the ropes. That was really Tavoris' only chance of landing shots. And even then, he landed some shots, but Hopkins still outworked him on the ropes. So it was just like, it was nothing Tavoris could do that was going to offset what Hopkins was doing. And it was an interesting event. Even though in 2 instances during that fight, the fights broke out. The end of the 2nd round, I think also the 6th or the 7th round, another fight broke out. But that's irrelevant. This is about Hopkins. He did what he had to do to win the fight. Controlled the pace. And for a guy who's 48 years old, don't get me wrong, he's not the same fighter he was when he fought Trinidad. But for a guy who's 48 years old, he still can fight. He's a craftsman, excellent ring generalship, and he knows how to throw his punches. He knows how to let his hands go when he needs to. Now, where do you put a guy like Hopkins among the greatest fighters of all time? There's only one fighter that comes to mind when I think of Hopkins, is the old mongoose Archie Moore, who fought for a long period of time, who won the title, I think at 39 when he beat Joey Maxim, held it for 10 years. I remember when he beat Yvon Durrell in Montreal in 58, knocked down 4 times and came back and won that fight. Hopkins reminds me of Archie Moore. If he is the new Archie Moore. If I was to say rank Hopkins where I would put him amongst all greatest of time, wherever Archie Moore is, I'd put Hopkins right next to him. I wouldn't say one's greater than the other because, Archie Moore did have a lot more fights because that's during that time, that's how it was done. But I would put Hopkins right next to Archie Moore. Wherever Archie Moore is ranked in the history of the greatest fighters of all time, I don't know where, according to a lot of historians, but I'd put Hopkins right next to him. Now, as far as Hopkins' future, I think he said after the fight, he walked over to Andre Ward and said, "I don't care how much money they would offer me, I would never fight you." I think that's fair. That's fair. They have a lot of respect for each other. And he said he won't fight him. He actually said that sometime last year before the Dawson fight. Second Dawson fight. So where does Hopkins go from here? Me personally, on a note like that, on a high like that, he could ride off into the sunset, or you can continue. Against who? I really can't say. I really don't know at this time. You have to see who's out there. I know there's another young undefeated champion in Nathan Cleverly. If I'm correct, he holds the WBO or the WBA belt. I mean, he could fight him and unify 2 titles. I don't know. They have to see. But what Hopkins did, he was expected to do. He was favored to do it. But being expected to do something and being favored to do something and actually pulling it off are 2 different things. Cloud did hit him with some good shots. Hopkins at 48 still shows that he has a chin and he can take it. He mauled Cloud. He busted him up. He cut both of his eyes. So he did exactly what he needed to do to win this fight. And that's my view and take on that. So like I said, when I went home to watch the fight on TV, I saw the exact same thing. I was thinking I was going to see something different. I saw the exact same thing. What happened while I was at the Barclays Center. So it was still the same thing. I thought he won 9 rounds to 3. Now as far as the undercard, Keith Thurman and Zavik. Keith Thurman thought that he was just going to go in there and overpower a guy and just thought he was just going to knock Zavik out. Unfortunately for him, he found out that you can't knock everybody out. I knew coming into this fight that Zavik was a decent, good fighter because he did have a fight with Andre Berto, and before that fight got stopped, I thought he was winning that fight. So I knew Thurman was in for the long haul. He landed some shots. Zavik just didn't throw enough. But I knew that he wasn't going to knock Zavik out. I just knew that. And Keith Thurman learned that the hard way. You just can't knock everybody out. You can't just go in and say, oh, I got tremendous power in either hand and just think you're just going to go and blow a guy away. It doesn't happen like that. Yeah, he won the fight, and it was a good victory for him. Now that should definitely elevate him onto the Ring Magazine rankings as far as welterweight is concerned. But I knew he wasn't going to knock Zavik out. I just saw it, like I said, because I was there. After 4 rounds, I said to myself, okay, now this is going to be a 12-round fight. And that's exactly what it was. So those are my takes on the 2 fights that was on HBO. Now, the 6 fights that was before that, they were good fights. I can't remember any names right now. The first 2 fights ended in a decision. The next 3 fights ended in spectacular knockouts. And the 6th fight ended in a technical draw. It was a clash of heads in the 7th round. And I think it was the ref or the doctor stopped the fight. And that was the whole card. I can't remember any names, so I'm sorry if I don't remember no names. All I just know is I was there. I saw the fight. It was a good turnout, good crowd. You know, people really came out to support, you know, the Barclays Center and the card that was there. And all in all, it was a good event. And like I said, B-Hop definitely got a huge pop from the crowd. You couldn't hear it on TV too much, but when he came out, it was a huge pop. B-Hop, they was really cheering for him. You know, the only thing that kind of messed up the live telecast a little bit was when Hopkins came to the ring and Michael Buffer was ready to speak, because you know these things are done on a timer. These things are done on time because it's a live event, and Michael Buffer was ready to speak, and the DJ, I think it was DJ Enough or whomever it was still playing the music, and Michael Buffer just looked over, and you know people were booing because he was supposed to have stopped the music and he hadn't. But see, you saw it a little bit on the telecast, but the crowd was really booing that. So that's my view and takes on that. Leave comments and let me know what you think. And until next time, everyone.